Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Zhou studied the mount. Where had he seen it before? Its aura felt very familiar. Although Yuan'er was slightly ashamed of her skills, she was not discouraged when she saw Shan Yunzheng making such a huge effort to attack the mount. She pulled on her energy bow again and launched a fresh volley of arrows at the mount. When she first joined the Evil Sky Pavilion, Zhou had trained her in the quick condensation method. Hence, she was exceptionally quick in firing her arrows. She was so fast that it made the hairs of the others stand on end. Perhaps, it was due to Shan Yunzheng's presence and Shan Yunzheng banishing her from the sect, her competitive streak came out at this moment. Han Yuan'er's eyes gleamed determinedly as she fired in succession. Although I can't compare to you in might and precision, or even the locking of aura, I'm sure that there's something that I'm better at than you. Energy arrows were clenched between her fingers. She pulled back on the bowstring. Twang. 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 Her shots flew toward the mount in the skies. An archer's advantage was not only in long-range attacks. The precision of an archer could add to their deadliness as well. They were not like the ballistae on castle walls or the ordinary bows used by soldiers. Nascent divinity tribulation realm cultivators could form energy bow and arrows. The bursts of energy arrows fired by an energy bow were much more powerful than pure energy blades. Arrows had a wider reach and a quicker speed. Yuan'er could fire 3 energy arrows at once. She clenched them between her fingers and let loose. 3 consecutive shots were the limit for her 2-leaf stage. In other words, she could fire 9 energy arrows. However, having cultivated the quick condensation method, she could fire 4 to 5 consecutive shots in one breath within an extremely short span of time. Originally, this speed could only be achieved by godly archers at the 5-leaf stage and beyond. Initially, Shan Yunzheng did not notice it. When she realized there seemed to be a display of fireworks beside her, she glanced in its direction. She felt shocked at the sight. How can this young girl be this quick? The continuous shots were not completely useless. The mount was starting to wail in pain after taking multiple hits from the arrows on its thick hide. Its cries resounded throughout Golden Court Mountain. Zhou looked at the poisonous gas in the sky. He said, "Elder Hua, 6 compatible seal." Hua Wudao nodded and took a step forward. When his foot touched the ground, 8 trigrams appeared under his feet. 6 scripts emerged from his body. Then, the remaining 3 scripts materialized out of thin air. The 9 great scripts, heaven, earth, life, death, water, fire, being, non-being, and separation spread out. With Hua Wudao at the center, the 6 compatible seal expanded outward. It immediately formed a thin screen that grew in size. This move was not used for defense. Instead, it was meant to scatter the poisonous gas. Like an ever-expanding bubble, the poisonous purple gas was pushed by the 6 compatible seal toward the horizons. Roar! The mount wailed in anger when it saw the poisonous gas being pushed away. Its frenzied state seemed to intensify. It did 3 laps in the air as it roared fiercely and blew out another wave of poisonous gas downward. "Master, send Bian out to deal with it." Little Yuan, who was nearby, pointed at the mount with one hand while the other hand rested on her hip. It had to be said that her suggestion was a good one. Bian should not have a problem dealing with that beast. Zhou was just about to summon Bian when Shan Yunzheng shouted and leaped into the air. She hovered a few meters in the air with a sharp look in her eyes. Livestock. She conjured up an arrow. The bow in her hand was as thick as a city wall ballista. The tip of the energy arrow seemed to be glowing red with heat. The others were also shocked when they saw this energy arrow. This showed that her 6-leaf cultivation base was genuine since she could conjure up an energy arrow like that. Shan Yunzheng loosened her fingers. Boom! The energy arrow sailed in the air. Perhaps, the beast sensed the threat. It immediately stopped spewing the poisonous gas and turned around to flee. If the beast got far enough, no cultivator would be able to catch up to it. Fortunately, the energy arrow was already upon it. Bam! The shot landed true on the mount. Roar! The mount felt a jolt of pain and began to howl. Its energy scattered. Just how shocking is this mount's defensive power? Hua Wudao exclaimed in wonder. Shan Yunzheng had practically placed all her power behind that energy arrow. Yet, all she managed to do was scratch the mount, not kill it. Shan Yunzheng was at her wit's end. She knew that she had to kill the mount to prove that the Luo sect did not set this up. She descended and cupped her fists at Lu Zhou and said, "Please lend me the weapon, Pavilion Master." She was tactful and used the word lend. Clearly, she wanted to borrow the falling moon bow. With the falling moon bow, her range would be extended, and the might of her attacks would intensify. The speed of her arrows would become more terrifyingly fast as well. Alas, Lu Zhou shook his head and said, "Someone's controlling this mount." The mount was circling above them in the sky. Since it had experienced that powerful attack, it seemed to realize the attack was not able to kill it. Therefore, it began spewing poisonous gas again from the distance. The wind carried the poisonous gas toward the evil sky pavilion again. No wonder it's so cunning. As it turns out, someone's controlling it. Pan Zhong exclaimed in surprise. Shan Yunjing frowned and said, "Elder Lu, how's that possible? This mount's name is Ba Wu. It's the mount of the senior brother of the Lu Lan elite, Mo Li. I fought against it once on the Lotus Dais." Ming Shirin, Duanmu Shang, and Little Yuan had some recollections of the deep growl they heard on the Lotus Dais. They were shocked by their master's revelation. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he looked at the mount, Ba Wu, in the skies. This mount was capable of withstanding a blast from the Blue Lotus's energy. Indeed, its defensive powers were shocking. It might not be the best idea to summon Bian. With someone controlling it, Ba Wu was just like a human. It might even cast spells. "Pavilion Master, please lend me the weapon," Shan Yunzheng said urgently. Lu Zhou tossed the weapon over and said, "The Luo sect should take care of its own mess." In truth, he wanted to see just how powerful Ba Wu's defenses were. He wanted to determine just how much of the heavenly writing power he would need to use to kill it. If that was not feasible, he would consider using the deadly strike card. Shan Yunzheng was clearly more confident now that the falling moon bow was in her hand. She shot into the air again, holding the falling moon bow in her left hand. Layers of energy wrapped around the falling moon bow. It seemed to be covered in a layer of golden light. With the golden light, the dainty falling moon bow seemed to have increased in size. The energy bow that was superimposed on the physical bow was as tall as Shan Yunzheng. Shortly after, the falling moon bow buzzed. Shan Yunzheng pulled on the bowstring with the fingers of her right hand. A more powerful energy arrow materialized. This was a six-leaf godly archer. Everyone's attention was on her arrow. Hua Yueshing was fixated on it as well. She gave up on firing her shots. No matter how great she performed, she could not compare to Shan Yunzheng with the falling moon bow. The atmosphere was tense. Shan Yunzheng held her breath and focused. Her sharp eyes were locked on the circling Ba Wu. Her energy arrow was completely formed. Bam! She loosened her fingers. The falling moon bow gave a distinct twang. As the bow sang, the energy arrow shot toward its target. Ba Wu sensed a threat just like it had moments ago. It suddenly stopped and made a unique move. It curled up on itself like a porcupine. Its hairs stood on end. Bam! Energy scattered everywhere. The energy arrow hit Ba Wu. A wail resounded across the skies. The purple energy was visibly scattering from Ba Wu's body. "It's hurt," Pan Zhong said. "Unfortunately, it's not dead. It intends on running away." Ba Wu was frightened now. It did not expect a powerful godly archer to be present on Golden Court Mountain. Its master seemed to have changed his original plan. It turned tail and ran away at top speed. Shan Yunzheng was dissatisfied with her shot. In her opinion, even if that shot did not kill Ba Wu, it should have dealt a heavy damage to it. She pulled on her bow again, firing another energy arrow. Bam! Ba Wu was too far away. When the arrow landed on its target again, it clearly packed less of a punch than the previous hit. Livestock. Shan Yunzheng was feeling pressured. The more flustered she was, the more difficult it was for her to unleash her strength. Her aura and utilization of primal chi became chaotic and lost their rhythm. This is bad. It's getting away. Ba Wu was hurt. It was sprinting away wildly on purple clouds. Shan Yunzheng shook her head helplessly. However, she felt slightly relieved as well. So long as the livestock stopped releasing poison and caused a commotion in the evil sky pavilion, she still had a chance to salvage the situation. She looked at Ba Wu's retreating back and said, "This mount is extraordinary. Please take that into consideration, Pavilion Master." Since when did the Luo sect collude with the people of Lulan? Lu Zhou raised his hand slightly. With a surge of energy, the falling moon bow broke free of Shan Yunzheng's grasp and returned to Lu Zhou's hand. Shan Yunzheng was, naturally, reluctant to part with it. At the same time, Lu Zhou flew into the air. His movements were not quick. In fact, they could be considered as insignificant. What's the Pavilion Master trying to do? The others were looking at Lu Zhou with anticipation. Lu Zhou wielded the falling moon bow with his left hand. He looked in the northwestern direction. The falling moon bow shook. Lu Zhou's eyes were as bright as a raging flame. He looked at Ba Wu that looked like it was the size of a palm as it flew further and further away, growing smaller with each passing second. He raised the falling moon bow with his left hand as the Sutra of the Heavenly Writing's third power surfaced in his mind. Originating from nothing, but at the same time, it comes from everything. Living in samsara and learning from it. This was the power of past lives. When the Heavenly Writing's extraordinary power surged, the space between his fingers began to emit a faint blue radiance. The members of the Evil Sky Pavilion who had seen Lu Zhou using this power before could not help but feel excited. Shan Yunzheng looked on with a complicated gaze. She was an extremely skilled archer. To her knowledge, at this distance, with the mount making a wild dash away, it was definitely out of shooting range. Let alone kill it, it was almost impossible to hit it. She shook her head. At this moment, the falling moon bow shook more violently. Ba Wu was only the size of a bean now. In a few more breaths, it would completely vanish in the horizons. Lu Zhou placed his right hand on the bowstring. He closed his eyes for a moment before he opened them again. A blue energy arrow materialized between his index and middle fingers. Shan Yunjing's eyes widened. She felt fear creep into her heart. Why does this energy arrow look exactly like mine? This was a condensation method that she had personally created. She had never taught anyone this skill. How was this possible? She was in disbelief. There was only one possibility: when she had used the skill earlier, Lu Zhou had seen her and learned it immediately. She was in awe despite herself. Meteor after the moon? Shan Yunjing uttered the name of the skill as she looked at the energy arrow. She named the skill Meteor after the moon. As the name suggested, it was like a meteor chasing after the moon when it was fired. Moreover, it complemented the falling moon bow as well. Whiz. The falling moon bow's string moved. The blue energy that shrouded the falling moon bow intensified and grew in size. It was now twice the height of a man. A supersized bow and arrow were formed. Now. The others were shocked. However, Shan Yunjing noticed that the energy arrow seemed slimmer. An improvement? She wondered how Lu Zhou had improved it when she heard a loud noise. Lu Zhou had unleashed the meteor after the moon. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the attack. The blue energy arrow was like a meteor in the air as it shot toward Ba Wu that seemed like it was the size of a sesame seed. Could the arrow hit it at this distance? The energy arrow shot out with a terrifying speed. Everyone held their breaths as they stared unblinkingly at the energy arrow. Their heads turned from the right to the left as they followed the arrow's trajectory. On land, the commoners who were working the fields, the occasional passerby cultivators, and the other cultivators flying at a low altitude, were also attracted by the unique sound. All of them looked up at the energy arrow. What's that? Something flew out of the evil sky pavilion. Strange. Let's not trouble ourselves with that. Anything can fly out of the evil sky pavilion these days. The commoners were smart. They did not treat the evil sky pavilion like an enemy. Therefore, they lived a peaceful life cultivating the fertile soil around the evil sky pavilion. To them, evil was a subjective thing. They did not draw a distinct line between the noble and fiend paths. Anything that did not cause them harm, they did not consider as evil. Most of them were already used to the evil sky pavilion. Watching the happening in the pavilion had become the norm. In order to get a better look, Duanmu Sheng, Zhao Yu, Little Yuan, and the others rose into the skies and gazed into the distance. Pan Zhong and Zhou Jifeng were also hovering in midair. Due to their curiosities, Hua Wudao, Hua Yuesheng, and Shan Yunzheng rose into the air as well. A brilliant scene greeted their eyes. The energy arrow exploded like a firework in the distance, and a blast of purple gas emerged. Perhaps, it was too far away, they only heard the noise seconds later. Bam! The sound was brief and muffled. It's a hit. Your might knows no bounds, master. No way. Really? Shocked, amazement, disbelief. Shan Yunzheng trembled. She was a six-leaf godly archer, after all. When she saw that Ba Wu was already a huge distance away, she was convinced it would be impossible to hit it. However, facts spoke louder than words. The energy arrow Lu Zhou had fired had hit Ba Wu against her expectation. The purple rippled into the surroundings. It lingered for a while before it finally disappeared. Ding! Killed a mount. Reward, 1,500 merit points. Lu Zhou was pleasantly surprised to be rewarded for killing a mount. However, his expression remained unchanged as the faintly blue energy disappeared. He gauged his remaining heavenly writing power. He had used about 1/3 of it. This burst of energy that used 1/3 of the extraordinary power was nowhere near as powerful as the burst of energy on the Lotus Dais. Based on this, he speculated that the amount of energy he could store would only allow him to fire 3 shots of energy. Naturally, if his opponent was too powerful, he could unleash all of the energy in one go. Finally, he ordered, "Retrieve the body." Zhu Honggong, old 8th, hastily replied in a loud voice, "I'll do it." "Don't move, everyone." The others looked at Zhu Honggong in confusion, wondering what he was up to. How could I allow my fellow disciples to undertake such a menial task? Allow me to go. You may not know this, but mounts like that one are especially filthy. Their hides are coarse, and their flesh is thick. They're heavy as well. The others nodded. Old 8th, way to go. Mr. 8th is really flexible. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and nodded. Go, then. Be careful of the witchcraft spell. Zhu Honggong rose into the air. He unleashed his 100 Tribulations Insight avatar and flew toward the spot where Ba Wu crashed. Meanwhile, inside a certain dark room. Pooh! Ba Ma's eyes snapped open. He spat a mouthful of blood onto the floor. Impossible. He had been controlling his mount remotely. It was akin to him being one with his mount. When his mount died, he, naturally, suffered a backlash. This was the shortcoming of witchcraft. At this moment, an incredulous expression could be seen on Ba Ma's face. He had been planning this for a long time. With this move, he could attack the evil sky pavilion and drive a wedge between the Luo sect and the evil sky pavilion. It was a win-win situation. However, it seemed like he had grossly underestimated the evil sky pavilion's strength. Ba Ma lifted his hand and pressed his chest. A hint of disbelief could be heard in his voice as he muttered to himself, "It's impossible for Shan Yunjing to be this powerful. How did she do it?" He knew about Ba Wu's defensive strengths better than anyone else. Even a 7 or 8 leaf nascent divinity tribulation elite could not say for sure they could kill Ba Wu in such a short time. Moreover, he had seen Ba Wu fleeing at an exceptional speed earlier. Through the mount's eyes, he could barely see the outline of the evil sky pavilion and Golden Court Mountain from that distance. How was it possible for the 6-leaf Shan Yunjing to be so strong? He refused to believe it. Ba Ma's face was ghastly pale as he clenched his fists. The death of his mount was undoubtedly a heavy blow to him. Before him, the remote control formation darkened. He said resentfully through gritted teeth, "Evil Sky Pavilion." Zhou landed slowly. At this moment, Shan Yunjing walked up to him and reverently said, "Your wonderful arrow shot has widened my horizons, Pavilion Master. If I may inquire, that arrow was?" Zhou raised a hand and cut her short.